everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today, as you can probably tell, I am making some WandaVision fan art. I have been wanting to make some for quite a while now, and I just absolutely love the show WandaVision. I'm a big fan of Marvel stuff, and yeah, that show was so good. I just couldn't help myself. I had to make some fan art. So my rough idea for this drawing is basically Wanda and Vision, obviously the two main characters of the show, are in a TV because the whole sort of aesthetic of this show is like TVs and stuff. It's quite interesting. You should check it out if you haven't already, but I decided to draw them in an old style TV, which I just think is such a cool idea. And my idea for it is that it was going to be like an old style TV, and I would color in the TV with pretty much just like gray kind of colors, because you know, old TV, gray, sepia, that kind of thing. And then for the background of them, I wanted to have like hexagons all through it, because that's a big thing that keeps repeating in the show as well. And then for the characters themselves, I kind of wanted to draw them in a bit more of a slightly more realistic style, because I often draw really cartoony, and I wanted to have a little bit more of a comic / realistic kind of style for the characters. And yeah, I decided to do the sketch and sort of line art, I guess line art, digitally, because I just really felt like it was a bit of a complicated piece, especially with anatomy. I struggle with like more realistic anatomy sometimes, and I feel like it's just a little bit easier if I do that digitally, because then I can like change things around a lot more easier than I can on paper. After this, I decided to print it out on a nice piece of watercolor paper. Now, I chose watercolor paper because I am out of my Bristol paper, and I wanted to have a little bit of a mix of media in the final artwork. So as you can see, I'm actually using my Copics first, and I absolutely love my Copics, and I've been neglecting them a little bit lately, so I've been really excited to get back in and use them. Now, I decided to print out the line art / sketch in red because I really wanted to have an almost lineless or more subtle line art look. I didn't want it to be, you know, heavily line art based, because that is something that I do quite often, and I really like the look of like, you know, colors and stuff, and I don't know, just less heavy line art and more rendering, if that makes sense. I'm trying to challenge myself a bit more here, and I really thought that that would be a good look for the subject that I'm drawing. I also decided to pick red because red is a big theme in the show. Wanda's powers are, you know, bright red. They glow, her hands sort of glow red, as well as Vision being, you know, a red metal machine man. So I still wanted that subtle redness to show through in areas, even though the line art is pretty much going to be covered up. So for the border of this illustration, as I mentioned before, it is an old style TV, and I just really love that. I did use a bunch of different grays. I didn't just do like purely grayscale. I used some cool grays as well as some warm grays, as you can see, as well as a little bit of neutral gray and black as well. And that actually adds a really nice look to it. It's not completely grayscale, it's not just like purely black and white, if that makes sense, but it's still gray toned enough that it has that sort of old vintage feel to it. And that was actually pretty fun to draw and get all of the nice little textures in there, and try and get the metal parts of the TV to look kind of shiny, as well as the wood pattern parts of the TV, because back then they didn't really use plastic that much for stuff, so they had like wood and metal, which is really cool. I kind of think we should try and go back to that. But yeah, I don't think I've ever drawn an old style TV, at least recently. And yeah, it was fun. So let's talk a little bit about WandaVision now, because I'm such a big nerd and I love talking about this stuff. And I think it's been enough time now that, you know, people who are worried about spoilers have probably already watched the show by now. I really love how the Agatha all along thing kind of became a meme. That kind of really makes me want to make some art of Agatha as well, because to be completely honest, I had no idea she was even a villain. You know, I just felt like she was just a neighbor character, and it was kind of obvious, you know, she always showed up. And she, I don't know, she had a little bit more personality than the other neighbors, but I feel like I should have realized, you know, earlier that she was, you know, a villain, but I absolutely love how I was surprised as well. Another thing, I actually really enjoyed the early episodes as well. I know a lot of people felt like it was cringy and it was bad and it was weird, but I loved that it was something different as well with the whole black and white and, you know, old style TV show thing. I just really love how they're being more creative with that kind of thing. But that's of course just my opinion. Let me know below in the comments what you think about that. So now for the background behind the characters, I wanted to do hexagons because that is a big theme in the show, and I just thought that it would be a really interesting sort of like old retro-y kind of pattern as well. So I pretty much, to get the pattern correct, I drew a proper hexagon on a piece of card, and then I cut that out and traced around it to get a nice little hexagon pattern, as you can see here. Now I just did that in a bit of graphite pencil. I was gonna say colored, but no, it was not colored. And then I erased it a little bit so it was a little bit more subtle, and then after that I pretty much just filled in the hexagons with my Copic markers, and I just did a pretty basic you know, flat color because I wanted that look, because as you can see we sort of have a slightly realistic but a little bit stylized TV, and then we have these characters which they are going to be colored in pretty, I don't know, kind of realistically but still a little bit different. So I really wanted something that would be, you know, a little bit more cartoony and a little bit more old, like, I don't know, kind of like old retro-y background, and I decided to go with red, yellow and green because those are colors that are main colors of Vision, as well as the red is like a main color for Wanda as well. So it's kind of like a hint towards their classic suits, and yeah, I really like the color choice and the patterns. It looks really cool. So now for the characters. I had a lot of fun doing this, but it was also a little bit nerve-wracking as well. As you can see, there is a fair bit of detail in the line art, and I'm just going over the top with this really dark red on Vision's face, which his face is that color, but it's also sort of hiding some of the details that I drew down. And I did plan for this to happen, but it kind of scared me when his face was just like red with like splotches of dark red all over it. But I don't know, I guess I just have to trust the process, because I was, you know, planning to do multiple layers on the top, and after this I was also going to go in with my colored pencils to add in highlights and just refine details here and there, and obviously fix up things like his eyes, which pretty much just blended into red. So I fixed that up later. But yeah, I used a subtle bluish color for the rest of his body because I didn't want it to be too full on, and I was trying to keep close-ish to the references that I was using, while trying to make sure it wasn't too how should I say this, primary color looking, because the modern superheroes, they don't really have, you know, crazy bright colors like the classic superhero outfits. As you can see, Scarlet Witch here, her outfit is more of like a dark red instead of like bright red. But yeah, it was really fun to draw, and I had a lot of fun just trying to get the shadows the way that I wanted them, and there wasn't too much pressure because, as I said, I could go over the top with pencils later to fix certain details, etc. Now with coloring in her hair, it was quite loose. I didn't want to go too crazy with all of the sort of, you know, hair strands, etc. So I pretty much just added in some yellows and oranges here and there, and then after that I would go in with the pencils to give it a little bit more texture. As you can see, this piece is slowly coming together and I'm really liking the way it's turning out. So now I'm on to the colored pencil phase of this artwork, and since I've got all of that nice base tone with the Copic markers, it was really easy for me to just add in details here and there and highlights and shadows and just refine some of the features just a little bit more. And that's one of the things I really like about mixing media, is you can get different effects mixing different things together. And it also really helps too, because if you have a nice layer of Copic underneath the pencil, it also helps to save a little bit of time, because you're not layering upon layering with pencils to try and get a realistic look. But yeah, once I started working on details on Vision's face and just trying to, fix the shadows and add highlights and stuff, I was really happy with the way it turned out, and I was less stressed out as well, because I was kind of worried that I ruined his face there, but once I added some more detail with the colored pencils, I could relax and it was good. So after I got those parts done, I decided to go in and just add some little effects around her hands. I kind of went a little bit overboard, you can't really see her hands anymore. But I really like how I made the powers sort of break the border of the TV. So as you can see, it's sort of flowing out of the TV. And I just think that that's a really cool effect, and I'm glad I did that. So here's the final result, and I absolutely love this artwork. It was a lot of fun to create, and I'm quite glad I did it too. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you've seen WandaVision, please comment below in the comments to tell me that you've watched it. But also, let's talk about it as well. Let's gossip a bit, because I love talking about Marvel stuff and superhero stuff, and yeah, it's fun. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and of course, as always, I hope to see you in my next video. Bye everyone.